Welcome to the MVP Show. Today I have a chat with someone who's been around the industry since Dynamics CRM 1.2, with over 20 plus years in the business, the man from Essex, Mr. Feridun Kadir. I'd love your feedback. If you've been listening to the MVP Show over the last couple of months, what do you think? Please tweet me on NZ365Guy. For full show notes, visit nz365guy.com/42. Now, let's get on with the show.
There's a knife in my heart and a storm in my hand.
Hey Feridun, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Mark. How are you?
Good. Good to have you on the MVP show today. Kind of want to get to know you a little better. So why don't we start with, a bit of your background. How did you get into this game that we call Dynamics, and a bit of your history?
Sure. Now that could be a long story or a short story, so I'll try and give you something in between. So I think it's probably best to start from my degree course, which was in electronics engineering. So I did a 3-year course and graduated as a hardware designer, and that was my first job in a telecoms company, as it were. And at that time, computers weren't really around. I kind of slightly predate the PC, but I do remember during my time there, I had to order an IBM PC with a 20 meg disk drive, and it was over £4,000, and I just, it's amazing, isn't it? And it didn't even have 1 meg of RAM. So so I guess that was my very, very first introduction to computing in that job.
So what about what year would have that been?
That would be 1984-ish, I think. Yeah, 1984. That's right. Yeah, about then. Yeah. So I did that job for about 4 or 5 years, and then I moved on and worked for London Underground. And because towards the end of my time at STC, I transitioned into a computer support role, looking after machines that the hardware engineers were using on some microsystem design machines, and they were all running Unix. So I heavily got into Unix as a system admin, and that's what took me to London Underground. I joined them, looking after Unix machines, all used for CAD work, doing 2D and 3D drawing. And the place that I joined was on the contract basis. They ran out of money, but my boss there at the time said, "The Jubilee line is looking for people. Do you want to go there?" And I thought, "Oh, okay, fair enough."
I'm on the Jubilee line.
Yeah, well, this was building the extension from Charing Cross out through to Stratford, and that was back in 1990. And anyway, I said to them, I don't mind doing this. It sounds interesting, but I'll probably only want to do it for a few months because I don't really want to work in London, because I was living out, where I am now in Stansted in Essex. But I ended up there for 10 years. So amazing. And so during my time there, I went through learning about Novell NetWare, more Unix, and my sort of initial introductions to Windows NT, as it was. And then when I left there, I think we're now around 1990, I thought, what am I going to do next? And the Jubilee Line were happy to pay me to do some MCSE exams. So I got qualified as an MCSE, and that was the Windows 2000 Active Directory era.
So that was a Microsoft Certified System Engineer, right? Rather than the MCSE that we have now.
Yeah, it was the original name,
exactly.
Microsoft Certified System Engineer. And
6 exams from memory.
Well done. Yeah, I think you're right. That's right.
Yeah.
And my best one was Networking Essentials.
Yeah. Four core exams from memory and 2 electives. I remember those days.
Oh, yeah, my goodness. But I also thought, well, I'm going to be an MCT as well, because I've always liked standing in front of people just talking about whatever. So I became an MCT. And when I left, I sort of did not a huge amount of stuff for 2 or 3 months, just looking around, sizing up my options. But then with a friend who had also similarly left somewhere, we jointly decided to start an IT support company. And we became a Microsoft partner. Now, I was still doing a bit of training now and again, mostly Windows 2000, but for some reason I got into SQL Server 7, as it was. And I remember now why I did it, because they said if you pass the exam, you can have £100 voucher for HMV or something. And I passed the exam, but this is the secret, that I actually passed it on the pass mark. But I was quite pleased with that. But
That's the
then
thing, right? A pass is a pass in this game.
pass is a pass, yes. But I was really pleased because I only studied it for 5 days on the course, and then did the exam the day after. So I was lucky, I think. Yeah. So being a Microsoft partner in those days, you got all the software like you do, but in the old days, it came in a box in the post on CDs.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Yeah.
Even your MSDN subscription, do you remember that? You used to
Absolutely,
get your updates, and there'd be a whole bunch of, and they're all different coloured discs, and you'd go through and go, what have I got that's new to play with?
What's this new toy? Yeah, and then they kept giving you bigger and bigger binders to put everything into, because there was so much. Oh my goodness, yeah. So so one day I looked at one of these CDs, and it said Microsoft CRM. I thought, what the hell's that? Sorry, should I say what the hell? What's that? I said. What's that? I said. Microsoft CRM 1.2. So out of curiosity, I installed it. And I thought, I don't really know what that's about. And I left it. But then I came back to it, and I looked a bit harder. And I actually got quite hooked into this, because it hit my fascination with databases, because having done the SQL, I was really quite interested in databases. I thought, well, this is a fancy database in a way. And then obviously I learned more and more. And somehow I got involved with a training company that had been selected by Microsoft to do prepping the partner market in Dynamics CRM. And because this company knew me already, I got to help them out delivering some of the very early CRM training courses. Yeah. Gosh, the product in those days was really, really different.
Who was writing those original courses? As in, do you know who was the
they were being done by Microsoft
themselves internally.
Yes, Microsoft internally. So at that time, I didn't really know the ins and outs of Microsoft Learning. I just received, because as an MCT, you get to receive all the courseware through the courseware download center, so I was able to get them. I didn't know Microsoft people at that time, but presumably I came to their attention because I'd been a trainer delivering these courses. And I think around the 3 era, I suddenly got this email from somebody at Microsoft that said, oh, we'd like to deliver a 3.0 beta course to our partners just to test out the course material. Would you be interested in doing that? And the guy said, yeah, why not? So I did. I delivered a 3.0 beta course, and the express purpose of the people coming on the course was partly for them to see the new version, but partly for them to critique the course that had been written. I don't know if Microsoft wrote it themselves or whether they'd outsourced it. So yeah, and then it just went on, and I've been doing stuff with Microsoft Learning, or whatever they're called, ever since then, which has included myself actually writing some courses, and that would have been the 2011, 2013 era. So if anybody's done customization and configuration 2011, 2013, I was involved in those in quite a big way. And also,
so you're responsible.
I am responsible.
That's what you're taking responsibility.
I am taking responsibility. All the good bits and all the bad bits. Yes, indeed. And some exam writing as well.
Okay, yep. Yeah. So you actually mean writing the questions that would be appearing in the exams, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
yes.
So how good are your crystal report skills when starting back in 1.2?
Non-existent now, but of course I had to know about it in that era. Gosh, a lot of things were different then.
It was, wasn't it?
Well, there was so much you had to do on the actual server. Am I right in thinking that you couldn't manage workflows without going onto the server as well?
And I knew you had to have separate server environments, right?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, Crystal Reports was bizarre. But of course, as soon as Microsoft had SQL come on board, and SSRS was the way to go, and they dumped Crystal Reports pretty soon, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
used it till they needed, but it was just, it was a horrible tool, I felt, to work with.
It was just an unnecessary complication. But wasn't there also the time that the customizations used Active Directory to store stuff? Do you remember that at all?
I know that you had to know a bit about AD back then.
No, it wasn't the customizations. It was the security. Security management was managed in Active Directory groups, which was ludicrously slow. And there was also a time when after you'd created an attribute, you couldn't get rid of it. You were stuck with it, so that was a bit stupid. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's an interesting journey, as in, like, I can't get over really in 15 years how far we've come, to what's here now,
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, the speed of change in those early days wasn't quite that much, really. We waited 3 years, I think, for one version change. But now you know every 3 weeks something's different. So
So you mentioned Stansted is where you're from. Now, I just happened to take a flight out of there this past weekend.
oh, did you
And
now? Well, you
yes,
should
yes.
have come to see me.
Well, I didn't realise, that you're from Stansted. But
Yes.
I mean, could you really call that London? It seems a long way out.
No, it's not London. No, so Stansted, to give its full name, is Stansted Mount Fitchett.
No way. Mount
yeah.
Fidget.
Mount Fitchett, Fitchet. I think it's named after some Lord of the Manor from the 1000s or whatever. And we do have the remains of a Norman castle here as well, so it's quite an interesting place to visit. Yeah, I'd say we're about 35 miles out from central London, and then maybe 15 miles to the edge of North London. So no, we are not part of London. Stansted is in a county called Essex. It's a small small town, but we're still technically a village. Yeah.
The only thing I know about Essex is Essex girls.
I'm not going down that route.
That's the only thing that pops into my mind when you say it.
Yeah, well, it's a very popular thing. I'm from Essex. But the airport is very near. It's about 3 miles from me.
Yeah. So have you always lived in the UK?
Yeah, I was. My parents came to England in the early 60s. They met in England, they were married in England, I was born in England, so I've lived my entire life. So my early life was actually in London. But technically I was born in Essex, actually. I was born in Walthamstow, Essex.
Wow, so you're an Essex boy.
I am an Essex boy, but somewhere along the line, I think in the 70s, they changed everything, and Walthamstow is now part of London. So, but my birth certificate does say Essex, yes.
So how did you become an MVP? I mean, how long ago? What was involved?
Oh, well, now that's another interesting question. So I think this is my 10th year, I think, or 11th year. So once I started working with Microsoft Learning, I was given access to some early materials and beta materials to get course writing done. And I must have done lots of feedback. And then one day I just got this email from the MVP guy at the time, the coordinator, Jim Glass, or
Jim
Jag.
Glass, yep.
Yeah, as he was affectionately known.
Jag, yep.
Yeah, and the email just said, would you like to be an MVP? And so after I jumped out of my seat and thought, I'm not going to reply immediately and say yes in large letters. I'll give it a little dignified interval. And I replied, yes, thank you. And I said, well, what do I have to do? And then he said, leave it with me. And then rather unfortunately, it went quiet. So I thought, well, I didn't feel in the position to pester. But after a few months, I wrote back and said, oh, did anything happen? And he said, oh, sorry, there's been a problem with your country lead. There were some changes going on. But anyway, within the year, it had happened. And so one New Year's Day it's because I was a January the 1st person. I just got this email. I said, congratulations, you're an MVP. So I was extremely excited.
I had the same thing on a New Year's Day, but it was New Year's one day later. I was the first.
Of course,
yeah, when
yes.
it was back then. But
yeah. I think it came out about 4:00 in the afternoon. I don't know if Redmond sent them out in the morning, but it came in the afternoon. So yeah, and being an MVP is really, really exciting. I just love it. The things I love mainly are the people that I meet, like yourself and others. It's just so good to get very different opinions on things.
It is good. It is good. So tell me a bit about. As you've been an MCT for a long time, right? A Microsoft certified trainer, and you've seen some changes, and it's a question that I ask a few people often that are in this area is kind of, what do you feel about, when we started, it was all classroom training. When you did your MCSE, that was kind of like 6 full weeks of, training back then, and then a heap of study for the exams. It was quite involved. And then over time, and the original CRM training, if we look at 1.2, 3, 4, those type of things, were all kind of much more deep dive, 5-6 hour day classes,
yes.
Which would go for 3 or 4 days in some cases.
Yes, but the longest course is the customization course, which is 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's we're no longer seeing the level of classroom training being delivered anymore. And we're seeing, as you know, you've produced a lot of the stuff in the Microsoft Dynamics Learning Portal. Do you think that e-learning is as effective as classroom learning? And then what do you see as the future, and what do you see as the changes in that space?
They are very big questions, and I think the answer cannot be it's going to be one or the other. I think it depends. Some people, well, we all know that people have different learning styles, and some people will take to e-learning because they can have the dedication to sit there and watch the stuff and stop themselves being distracted. Other people just love to go on instructor-led courses. My personal favorite for delivering courses is to be in a room with people, because I think I can be more effective by gauging how people react from their body language and encouraging an environment where people can talk to each other, because I expect people to learn from each other and I expect to learn from the students. As strange that may sound, but you always get something that you thought, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or I've never been asked that question before. So I like doing instructor-led training. I have delivered short trainings, maybe 3 or 4 hour sessions in a format where I'm just sitting at my machine talking into a headset, not being able to see who's there. And it just feels lonely, but if people like it, then that's fine. But I wouldn't go out of my way to do it. As a consumer of learning, I think I'm happy to do little bits of e-learning, but I think I do find that I get distracted. I suddenly thought, I'll just go check it. I'll just go look at my emails. And then before you know it, you've read one that's made you go and do something and you've lost your train of thought. So I don't see any time instructor-led training disappearing. However, I think all other modes have their place to play. Because it does make it easier, doesn't it, for large countries like Australia and the US, where the geography makes it hard perhaps to travel to a training centre. That's less of an issue here in the UK because we don't have those physical enormous distances.
And who are the big training providers in the UK in this space?
Well, I think you might rephrase your question as who is the big training provider.
Okay.
At the moment, as far as I can see, it's QA. Who have managed? Oh, that's interesting. They're one of the biggest. They've bought up several others over the last decade. So whereas we had quite a few, I mean, there are one or two others, but predominantly for the Microsoft stack, I think it's QA.
Gotcha. And so I take it you do training for companies, individuals, and do you work through companies like this, that are kind of professional training institutions?
I will go wherever I'm paid. I'm not too fussy. So typically, just thinking about my last year, I have been engaged by Microsoft Learning Partners who have open public courses, and they don't have a CRM trainer for some reason, so they'll just bring me in to deliver that course. I have been approached directly by companies to do trainings, maybe some rollout training, or just very simple one-day sessions, more workshop style, where the person says, oh, well, we need to be able to do this. So it actually turns into a bit of customization on the fly, but with a bit of training to say, well, this is actually how you do it, to make them a bit more self-sufficient. So I've had a fair mix, really.
One thing, but you do have your own training facility as well, don't you, in London?
Principally, I set up for one of my clients so that they could deliver their training courses to their clients. So I am very, that works very well for them. But I'm very keen that I should start using it more to offer some public courses of my own. So you're welcome to come and deliver a course here, Mark, if you've got some students to bring across.
Thank you. Well, I have no students. I'm brand new to the UK and also, just been here. But it was interesting. I chucked up a few weeks ago this a 90-day mentoring challenge, and I thought I'd mentor a few people around the world, really following on what Britta Rickstead's doing kind of in her space. I expected to give it, about 5 people, and I've had over 50 applications for it from all over the world. And so, yeah, I think I've got about, I've already done face-to-face, as in when I say video face-to-face meetings across 9 countries to over 20 of those people already. So
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Like, I do like having the camera on and being able to have that communication. I think it's, without being in the same room, it's the closest, because I did another session with them all together, and it was one way and I couldn't see them. And it's very hard to, as you say, gauge the feedback. Like, is my concept getting across? Because if I saw their facial expressions, I'd probably change what I was saying if I saw some, what's he talking about type, expression on their face.
Yeah, I think it's any trainer's nightmare when they're talking to a class and you get no reaction whatsoever. Because, is it that they're bored, they don't understand, they don't care? You need something so you can help them. But that's the beauty of comms and the internet now. You can have meetings and discussions with anybody anywhere. And I regularly have a session each week with a client in the US. And we all know each other, but I've been there and I've met them in person. So, but during our meeting, it's just they could be in the next room for all I know. It really doesn't matter. Yeah.
So as we go to wrap up at this little session we've had, time's flying quickly. I always like to ask a question or two that's a bit off the wall.
Okay.
And so First of all, I think you'd have an answer for this, being that you've paid so much for storage in the past. What's the best purchase under $100 that you have made?
Possibly the first Android phone I bought, because I've been a Windows mobile user for a long, long, long time. And I thought, I have to try the Android world just so I know about it. And I bought a fairly cheap Motorola Android phone around that price, and I thought, yeah, this is quite good. It was interesting, and then I went and bought a better one.
So you're on the Android platform now?
I'm now on Android. Yes, I've still got my Nokia Lumia hiding in my drawer in case somebody wants to buy it.
Yeah, I've got one sitting next to me here on the shelf.
Yeah, it was good, but
Yeah, it's still like I flick it on because it still takes the microchip when I want to look at my mobile number in New Zealand. It allows me to get back onto it, but obviously that's all become history now. So here's another one for you, and I think this one might stump you as well, but let's see who comes to mind.
Let's try. Yes.
I asked Matt Whitterman this one, and he found it difficult, and I've had a bit of feedback on their podcast where I've asked, which is, who do you think of when you think of the word punchable?
Oh, now that is well. I've got to be careful what I say. I have 2 or 3 answers, but I don't know if I'm going to get flamed or,
Well, yes, you might not say their name. You might say their persona or something like that to hide the innocence, so to speak.
No, I cannot possibly say anything about who I think it should be without revealing who it is. But
do I know them? Do I know them?
Oh, I think you'll have heard of them. It's not somebody I know because it's a public figure, but I will say who I think it is in an indirect way, but it will be obvious. The person that caused this Brexit mess.
Okay, so here's the thing.
By asking the country.
Right.
So therefore, I am a Remainer. There you go.
You're a not exit, but a stay in.
Yeah.
Not
especially that I'm fanatical about staying. I just don't see the point of all this time and money that we're spending on trying to negotiate an exit.
How much? I bet you it's in the billions of money that's been burnt on this.
It's got to be, hasn't it? All the people that are being paid, and some people will have an ideological reason. Say, but we have to leave, and I just think, okay, well, let's hope we get the benefits and we can repay all that money.
Yeah. I know nothing about it whatsoever.
Well,
I don't follow the news. I just know that March is the deadline next year, isn't it? So. We will see what happens.
Exactly. Yes.
Very interesting. Before you go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been nice having this chat, and I look forward to seeing who you have next on your show. Unless you're able to tell us now, or do we just have to wait?
I can. As my next up guest is Sarah
Crishley?
Yeah.
Oh, Awesome. Oh, I should so love to hear that.
Yes, I mean, she is fantastic.
Yes, yes, and I can tell you that cats are going to figure on that one highly.
Yes, yes, and I've actually went up, and my wife and I went and spent the weekend with them up in Cambridge, and that was
Very good.
nice.
Yeah.
it was
Did you
very
go
lovely.
into Cambridge City?
As in, we went for a punt on the Avon and things
Oh,
like that.
fantastic!
Oh yeah, it was
Fantastic.
it was great. It was a great day. It was a great day.
Yeah. Hopefully, you had good weather. Yeah.
It was good. Oh, it's beautiful. It was beautiful. Well, Feridun, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Excellent. If people want to find you online, how can they connect with you?
Probably the Twitter handle FKCRM or my company website expertcrm.co.uk.
Hey, thanks for listening. This is one of 3 shows I produce on the Business Application Podcast. Please check out all 3, the Dynamics 365 show, this one, the MVP show, and the all-new Power 365 show. Let me know what you think. For full show notes, you can look at nz365guide.com/42. Thanks for listening, and see you on the Tristan Swing.